Hi everybody, I am back. I know I have been away for a while. I have been flashing my bra. I've been getting used to parenthood and meaning to make these videos. So now I'm finally back. I wanted to make a video on my first few weeks, kind of as a recap and just to remember how it all was. I'm on my balls to start for moving around. I'll go through the first few days and then the first few weeks. Excuse me. First few days after birth are a bit of a shock. Apart from anything, it's sore. It's really sore. But they give you industrial step painkillers, so it's not too bad. And they tell you how to take them. And when you're in hospital, they give them to you. So you don't have to remember when to take them, you just take them when they're given them. But I was a bit surprised. Kind of, I knew it might be an option that, obviously, if you're having an episiotomy, if you tear or if it's your cut, obviously you have to let that heal and the rest of it. But, wow. And you're so afraid to pee and poop. Probably a little too much information, but just the first times you're like, there's a hell of a lot went on down there. But they have these things I got them in Mothercare here. They're called perineal ice packs. Godsend. Absolute godsend. You wear one whilst having the one in the freezer. Just beautiful. I highly recommend them if the same thing happens to you. They're fantastic. But I know my situation was a bit different because Benjamin was in the NICU for a while. Luckily I was able to be with him, which helped establish breastfeeding. And I didn't want to be away from him, so that was just really fantastic that I could be with him. But getting home, you kind of have this, it was like there was this force field in hospital, and you could just go through it, and all of a sudden I'd been in this cocoon of the hospital, and I swear to God, I went past like the end of the ward, and I just started bawling, crying. And the nurses were like, "It's okay, you're gonna be fine." But it's all of a sudden this huge responsibility, and you're on your own, and there's no instructions. And I have an incredibly supportive partner, but I've been beside me. I mean, as well, it's the hormones, but you're just not sideways. It's really hard to deal with. Well, not really hard to deal with, but it's big. Then the first few days at home, you kind of getting used to a new way of living. Whether you're formula feeding or you're breastfeeding, you're getting used to this new little person's way of being. If you're formula feeding, you're just into ounces and making bottles, and that is not easy at all. I was at a friend of mine's house and she showed me how she makes the bottles. Hell of a lot of work goes into that. Yikes. I was really surprised, and a lot of work. If you're breastfeeding, you're establishing a milk supply, you're feeding what it feels like every 2 hours, your boobs are sore, they might be chapped, bleeding and dry, and with that as well. On top of all of this, you've got to eat and sleep yourself, which at the best of times isn't easy. I have a bit of a cheat sheet here just to keep me on the way. A big thing for us was the house. just how dirty it gets, how quickly. And it was such a godsend when people would bring prepared food over and leave it in the house, because then you didn't have to think about if we had milk or oil or bread or just tiny things. There was like, well, I know for the first few weeks my appetite wasn't great. So when I was eating, I was trying to eat things that were remotely good for me, because when I would eat, I wouldn't eat a lot. So it was a challenge. It's strange the first few days getting used to everything, because that's what you're doing basically. You're adjusting to life with baby, and knowing there's a change is coming and actually experiencing a change, it's two completely different things. Like the feeling of being a parent, both just sideways, but it's just nuts. I'm gonna cut off here and do another one about the first 2 weeks. See you soon.